Pre-Dark Age 2, The King in the Ashes. Prologue, The Broken Griffin. The world burned, and Henryk of Villini watched it happen. He had witnessed the birth of Sarathor, the twilight child of Veilrath and Rhaenyra, a being neither angel nor dragon but something beyond both. He had stood beneath the sky as it shattered over Mount Eidolon, Elir Valefarin's final defiance ripping the gods from the world in a burst of divine ruin. And when the firestorm faded, when the last echoes of Elir's voice melted into silence, Henryk understood, there was no place for kings in a world reborn through chaos. Yet he had survived. Not through divine will. Not through prophecy. But because he had not been worthy of the flames. Chapter 1, A Throne of Rust and Bone. Location, the Villene Wastes. The land that had once been Villini was a corpse. Towns stood hollow, their streets overrun with ivy and silence. The banners of the Griffin Lords, once a symbol of unbreakable rule, lay trampled beneath the boots of mercenaries and scavengers. Henryk walked through the ruins of his childhood home, the Ivory Keep, now blackened by fire. He ran a gloved hand over the iron gates, feeling the grooves of old battle scars. He had fought wars for this kingdom. Bled for it. Killed for it. And in the end, it had crumbled without him. The Order of the Black Pearl ruled what was left, smugglers, slavers, thieves masquerading as nobility. Henryk had known them in the old days, had played their games in the syndicate halls of Metropolis X. They had offered him a place at their table once. Now, they ruled his kingdom like parasites burrowing into a dying beast. But kings do not ask for their crowns back. They take them. Dialogue. Henryk, to himself, coldly, a throne is not lost, only misplaced. Eleanor Vallon, his old advisor, now exiled, and if it no longer fits. Henryk, then I carve a new one. Chapter 2, The Pact of Blood and Silence. Location, Metropolis X, the catacombs of the Syndicate. Metropolis X had endured Elir's war. The city of glass and shadow had outlived gods, dragons, and the fall of nations. But in the underworld, beneath the neon glow and steel towers, power had shifted. The Syndicate lords who had once ruled the streets now answered to Sebastian Valcrest, the man who had tried to have Veilrath slain, the man who had played all sides of the war and emerged untouched. Henryk entered the Undercity unarmed, a sign of either foolishness or absolute confidence. At the Syndicate's table sat Seraphina Vale, the last surviving heir to the Vale family, now an assassin for hire. Azrael Thorne, a former war priest turned executioner. Dominic Voss, brother of Corvin Voss, the mercenary Lord Veilrath, had burned alive in molten gold. Henryk did not sit. Dialogue. Dominic Voss, mocking a dead king, walks into our hall and expects an audience? Henryk, calmly, no. I expect a reckoning. Seraphina Vale, smirking, spinning a dagger, and what do you offer in return? Henryk, the only thing that matters, revenge. He did not lie. He had no crown to reclaim, no throne to sit upon. But he still had his name. And there were those in the city who remembered what it meant to cross a Griffin Lord. Chapter 3, The Ghost of the Phoenix. Location, the ruins of Arenval. The fallen sanctum of the Phoenix Riders was nothing but dust now, but Henryk came here not for relics, he came for Elir. He stood before the last remnants of Elir Valefarin's war, bones turned to glass, weapons fused with the earth itself, the air still thrumming with forgotten magic. Elir had burned everything for a better world. And yet, the world remained broken. Dialogue. Henryk, to Elir's empty grave you were wrong. Shadowed voice, and yet, you stand where I fell. He turned sharply. But there was no one there. Just wind. Just ghosts. But something stirred, a presence watching from the edges of reality. The Phoenix incarnate was gone, but not forgotten. And neither was Henryk. Chapter 4, The Black Pearl's Gambit. Location, the Villene Coast. The Black Pearl Syndicate had stolen his kingdom. It was time to steal something back. The plan. A direct attack was suicide. Instead, Henryk played the game they had mastered, deception. The Black Pearl's vaults, buried beneath their coastal stronghold, held more than gold. Secrets. Artifacts from the Phoenix War. And something older, something Elir had once sought. Henryk disguised himself as a fallen noble desperate to buy back power. He infiltrated the Pearl's ranks, weaving his way through their trust. Dialogue. Black Pearl Captain, laughing, you think we sell crowns to beggars? Henryk, grinning, tipping a golden coin, no. But I think you sell them to kings in exile. At midnight, he struck. The vault burned. The Pearl's ship shattered against the rocks. Henryk disappeared into the storm, carrying with him a single obsidian shard, pulsing with firelight. A fragment of something ancient. Something Elir had once died for. Chapter 5, The Twilight Covenant. Location, the Vale of Sarathor, the Hallowed Sanctum. The obsidian shard burned colder than ice in Henryk's grip as he trekked through the bleak marches, a wasteland where the bones of dead gods protruded from the earth like broken teeth. Legend spoke of a realm between realms here, where Sarathor, the twilight child of dragon and angel, whispered secrets to those desperate enough to listen. The Hallowed Sanctum was no temple. It was a wound in the world, a jagged rift where light and shadow bled together. Henryk stepped through, his breath crystallizing in the air. Before him stood a figure draped in shifting veils of starlight and smoke, Sarathor. Neither male nor female, their voice echoed like a chorus of drowned souls. Dialogue. Sarathor, echoing, you carry a shard of the first pyre, Griffin Lord. A relic even Elir feared to wield. Henryk, grim fear is a luxury for those who still hope to survive. Sarathor, laughing softly, you mistake me. The pyre does not burn, it unmakes. To use it is to erase yourself from the song of creation. Henryk, clenching the shard, what do I care for songs? My kingdom is ash. Sarathor, leaning closer, their face a fractal of light, then let us compose a new melody. One where kings are not rulers, but reckonings. The offer hung like a blade. Sarathor's covenant, power to shatter the syndicate and the Black Pearl, in exchange for a fragment of Henryk's mortal essence, a thread of his soul to fuel the pyre. He agreed. The shard flared, searing his palm with a sigil of intertwining flames and shadows. As he left, Sarathor's final warning followed him, beware the phoenix's shadow, Henryk. It remembers your face. Chapter 6, The Syndicate's Blade. Location, Metropolis X, the Skyforge Spire. The Syndicate struck back. Sebastian Valcrest, ever the puppeteer, turned Henryk's allies into liabilities. Seraphina Vale cornered him atop the Skyforge Spire, her dagger pressed to Eleanor Valen's throat. The old advisor, once exiled, had been dragged into the fray as bait. Dialogue. Seraphina, smirking, Sebastian sends a message, kings die best when kneeling. Henryk, eyes on Eleanor, and what do you want, Seraphina? Gold? A throne of your own? Seraphina, snarling, I want you to bleed for what your kind did to the Valles. Eleanor, quietly, Henryk, don't. Henryk activated the shard. The sigil on his hand pulsed, and Seraphina's dagger melted to slag. Shadows lashed from the ground, binding her. But the victory was hollow. Eleanor collapsed, a syndicate poison coursing through her veins. Henryk, cradling Eleanor, why stand with me? You never believed in thrones. Eleanor, weakly, I believed in the man who bled for them. Her death was a quiet thing. Henryk carried her body into the spire's inferno, letting the flames claim her. As he walked away, the Skyforge exploded, a pillar of fire visible across Metropolis X. The syndicate's grip wavered. But in the ashes, Henryk felt the phoenix's gaze intensify. Chapter 7, The Ashen Crown. Location, the Crucible of Elir, the heart of the first pyre. The shard led Henryk to Elir's final forge, buried beneath the volcanic plains of Draknaf. Here, the first pyre, a primordial flame said to have birthed dragons and incinerated pantheons, waited. The Black Pearl and Syndicate converged, their fleets and armies clashing above ground while Henryk descended. In the crucible's core, he found not fire, but a mirror of obsidian. His reflection showed a figure wreathed in spectral griffin wings, eyes glowing like dying stars. The voice from Erenval returned, Elir's ghost, woven into the pyre itself. Dialogue. Elir's echo, roaring, "You dare claim my legacy, Oathbreaker?" Henryk, stepping into the flame, "I claim nothing. I am what your war made me." Elir's echo, softening, "Then let us burn together, brother." The pyre engulfed him. Syndicate and Black Pearl soldiers burst in, only to disintegrate as Henryk emerged, transformed. His armor was fused with obsidian, the griffin's sigil now a twisted hybrid of beast and phoenix. The shard had become a blade, humming with apocalyptic heat. Above ground, he faced Sebastian Valcrest. The Syndicate Lord, ever eloquent, drew a blade of celestial steel. Sebastian, smirking, "You look improved. Let's see if you still bleed." Henryk, raising the pyre blade, "No. Let's see if you can scream." The duel ended with Sebastian's body reduced to cinders. Henryk turned to the remnants of both armies, his voice a thunderclap, "Kneel. Or join him." They kneeled. Epilogue, the shadow of the griffin. Location, the reforged ivory keep. Henryk sat upon a throne of blackened bone and smelted gold. The obsidian blade lay across his lap, its fire dormant but never dead. The world whispered of a new dark age, of a king who wore ashes as a crown. In the shadows, Sarathor watched, their pact fulfilled. Somewhere, the phoenix incarnate stirred in its prison of time. And deep in the earth, the first pyre waited, patient, hungry. Henryk smiled. Let them come. The Griffin Lord was done waiting.